Good evening. It's Tuesday night, so you know what that means. Chappy here, Chaps Fantasy Chat. I'll tell you guys, it's funny. It's really hard preparing for a show when there's not a whole lot to talk about. But I always find that it makes for some of the most interesting conversations because you could slow down and you could talk about holistic things. You could talk about strategy. You can talk about thought process, and in a lot of ways, it really is an opportunity to optimize how you process these things and how you get in the right mindset. Right? Tonight is going to be an interesting show. It's going to be different. Because, we should be right smack dab in the middle of baseball right now, and I don't want to sit here every week and belabor the point, because that's not helpful for anyone. But what I do want to talk about, I touched on it last week, is what the hell are we all doing to replace baseball? Because the more I think about it, the more I sit here and try and prepare for these shows, the more it comes to mind just how much of a stress relief, of a getaway, of a vacation, sports in general, but in particular this time of year, fantasy baseball is. I've never been a big water sports guy. I've never gone out and gone skiing a whole lot. I never really was into a whole lot of, mountain biking or hiking or any of that other stuff. I've always been very interested in baseball. And I guess tonight's as good a chance as any to kind of tell you why that is. So quickly, because I want to get into what we all came here for, right? But I kind of want to, as these weeks go by, and unfortunately, it looks like there'll be quite a few more where we're just kind of talking about theoreticals. I think it's important that we all kind of bond, that we all kind of understand what makes human makeup, right? And for me, baseball was instilled at a very young age. My dad was a high school baseball coach in a relatively small town, and from the time I was old enough to walk, I accompanied him to the games. I kept score at a very young age, and my job was always to go chase the foul balls, which sometimes, when I was younger, would take me a couple innings. I'd get lost out in the woods, just being a kid, right? So to me, baseball is a part of who I am. And I think that's why I'm drawn to Lenny's site. Let me know if you can hear me, guys, by the way. I feel like when you come into Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, you get a group of folks who are all kind of coming from the same viewpoint. And that is that this is more than just fun. This is more than just something to do. It's ingrained in our makeup. It's ingrained in who we are. Hey Lenny, welcome. So again, for me, I knew from a very young age that I needed to live up to a certain expectation in baseball in particular. I remember being a little leaguer, a Babe Ruther, and not even really understanding what it was. But I could feel the judgment of other kids' parents as I was playing. Good, bad, indifferent. It doesn't matter. So I've always been kind of a perfectionist when it comes to baseball, when it comes to fantasy sports, because I feel like I have an inherent advantage to others. And it's not, I don't mean this to sound pompous. I'm just saying, like, growing up a coach's son, I look at things differently. I break things down more from a coach's perspective than I do from a novice fan. Okay, thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. Welcome, by the way. Thanks for joining me. If you're just listening to me and you're not, you wonder what the hell I'm doing, we have this great chat room. If you go to LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, there's this wonderful chat room where we have all these podcasters that kind of support each other and prop each other up, and you can go in there and you ask your questions. You can be silly. Hell, half the time I go in there, Lenny's probably thinking, what the hell is wrong with Phil? Because I'll just type just arbitrary shit. George is great about doing that too, but it's we're all friends, so we're here having fun, right? What are we doing? What are you guys doing to pass the time without baseball? Tonight I want to talk about undervalued players, right? Because we can still analyze the shit out of this stuff, right? And again, like I mentioned last week, I think there's inherent value in overanalyzing these things, in discussing these things. Because if you discuss these things, maybe tonight we're talking about, I don't know, Chris Davis. And someone in this chat room says something in a way that I hadn't thought of, or vice versa, right? So I think it helps us kind of button up where we want to be on these players. And it doesn't matter if it's for this year, next year, 14 years from now. I mean, I know that's exaggeration, but if we sit here and talk holistically about these players, it makes us better drafters when that time does come, right? So I'm going to get into that in a minute. I got about 10 players I want to talk about who I think are, I'll say proven, that aren't getting the respect that they deserve, okay? But before I get into that, I do want to tell, what are you guys doing to pass the time without sports? That was kind of the basis of how I wanted to start this show. And I don't know. I think I'm pretty funny, so I'm going to break down Chappy's life minus sports. And y'all can think it's dumb or whatever. That's fine. But the point of this is, we're all kind of searching for shit to do, right? So, I wrote this searching for stuff to talk about. Just to open up the show. What I'm doing without sports. What I'm doing without baseball. First one, kicking the can around the driveway. Who doesn't remember this fun, old-fashioned game, right? How did we ever go away from kicking the can around? Bird watching. and this is true. I actually do. I live on, my road is Audubon. There's beautiful birds around here, but, I bring it up sarcastically, tongue-in-cheek, because I think it's funny. How about yelling at people that drive too fast in the neighborhood? This is the type of shit we're reduced to without sports, right? And also accurate. How about yelling at people that drive too slow when you have someplace to go? And finally, the climax of all this, the holy grail of what we're doing while we're on lockdown. The store. Oh, the store. What an impact the store has, right? And it could be good or bad. If it's good, maybe you walk in and it's not crowded. The other day I went to a store and there was a little lady sitting there. She just cleaned the cart. She's like, here, this is clean. You go and they have your special Diet Coke. The whiskey you once there. But if it's bad, That changes things, right? When you go to the store and it's bad, it totally affects your mood. You go in and the parking lot is so full. There's 19 people in front of you waiting to get a cart. The cart's got snot rags in it. They don't have your shit. You come home and you're certain you got the Rona. Your glands are swollen. You're constantly touching your throat. Oh, shit. The food tastes like germs. The store is now the new Mecca, right? The climax of what we do. But I won't bore you guys too much. I thought it was funny. Baseball to me, and the lack of baseball, it's kind of like losing an ex-girlfriend. But not just any ex-girlfriend. You know, I remember, I'm happily married now. I remember being younger and having this, a few girls that I was just enamored with. And whatever happens, you break up. And that first day, it sucks. You sulk around. You miss them. But then maybe a buddy calls. Says, hey, let's go hit a round of balls. Well, your ex-girlfriend fucking hated golf. So you never got to play golf. Bobo, welcome. I will get into baseball. Bear with me for just 2 more minutes, okay? Maybe you see a pretty girl and she smiles at you. You couldn't smile back when you were in that relationship. So you smile at the pretty girl. But we all had that one girlfriend that it didn't matter if that pretty girl smiled at you at the store, or if your friend called you to go out and play golf. You're still stuck thinking about her. Not necessarily loving her, liking her, but you're thinking about her. That's what baseball is. Because it's gone, but it's not forgotten. You can't get over that heartbreak of it not being around, right? All right, I've rambled enough. Thank you guys for listening to me. I want to talk about just a handful of players that I think have tremendous upside and provide tremendous value when we're going about drafting, whether it be for a shortened season or what have you. A lot of these guys, I think, are really going overlooked. And a lot of you guys that listen to me, some of these guys won't be a big surprise. But it's important to pin these guys down. I've said it before, what I like to do is when I'm drafting, I like to go through and I like to start earmarking these guys. And I like to build my team from the bottom up. And what I mean by that is, if there's a plethora of outfielders, why do you want to invest heavily on the front end of outfielders if you feel very confident in guys that you can get later, right? So by design, this is how we want to do this. We want to go, at least how I do it, is you want to go in and you want to identify players that you think are being looked past in order to optimize your team on the front end, right? So these guys, all these guys have an ADP of 150 plus. So that means you can get him after the 12th round in a 12-team league most of the time. So, and these guys provide pretty consistent value, right? The first guy I want to talk about is Chris Davis. And I think it's important to take note with Chris Davis that we're really discounting